Now, this is unusual for me to be talking about this subject because I'm used to teaching the Bible. But here lately, the Lord has brought something into my life, well, I just can't ignore it. And it's presenting itself more and more, and actually, we live with it on a daily basis. For those of you who don't know, we took in our grandnephew back in April of 2020. He's going to be 4 years old this November. And we have been on the autism road for the past year and a half. We had no idea that this little boy had autism. And it wasn't until we started seeing that he wasn't meeting the milestones that we began to ask ourselves, what's going on? Well, we received the official diagnosis, it was in June of 2022. I don't know when you're watching this, but in June of 2022, we received the official diagnosis that Jackson has severe autism, or what they would call a number 3. There are 3 levels to it. There's mild, moderate, and severe. Well, one of the things that I started doing is I started trying to teach myself everything I could learn about autism because I'm living with it on a daily basis. You can't escape it unless you send the kid away, and that is not an option. I'm not going to do that. So I'm facing the challenge. And it is a challenge because there is so much to learn. And I think one of the things that has come out of this, surprisingly for me, is how much he has taught me about myself. And so while it's been a tough journey, just knowing the things that I have learned about myself through this is a huge benefit to me going forward. And for that, I am very grateful. Now, I wanted to record this video for you today because I had an opportunity to sit in on a Zoom meeting last evening with the Turn Autism Around folks. And on there were 16 parents that were represented from all over. I didn't know any of them. They didn't know me. And we sat there for an hour, and I listened to the various questions that came across from the parents, and I heard the struggles and the things that they are dealing with. And it occurred to me that many of them, and maybe I'm wrong, don't have services yet for their child. Some of them don't even have a diagnosis yet, an official diagnosis. Some of them haven't started therapy yet. They have the diagnosis, but they don't have therapy. We've been very blessed to have the diagnosis, have the therapies, both ABA and speech therapy. We've also done stool testing, which is something that I brought to the group's awareness last night to test their child's stool. Many of the children that are nonverbal, ours included, was nonverbal up until this past February. And we did a stool test at the recommendation of a friend of ours who also tested her son's stool 7 years ago and found out that our little guy had major yeast belly, C. diff, and 3 other bacteria. And we had no idea. We just thought, well, he's a growing boy. He's eating all the time. He likes to eat all day. Feed him. It's okay. Feed him. He's not getting fat. Well, we found out he's not getting fat because he had C. diff and he wasn't growing. The only thing that was growing was the yeast. We were feeding the yeast everything they absolutely loved. And that's why the kid was in the kitchen all the time. And that's why he was always hungry. And that's why he would down French toast sticks with no problem. And then it would be, fruit bars and all these things that we were giving him. He hated vegetables, still does, and he didn't want any regular meats that we would eat. And no fruits. The only fruit he would eat was bananas. Well, and then we found out those are very high in sugar. Bananas not good. So we came to, it was a very challenging and abrupt change that we had to make once we found out that he had all of this yeast and he had these 3 bacteria and C. diff. At the end of February 2022, we took all of the food that he was eating on a daily basis and we got rid of all of it and we started from scratch. And that is a huge, huge change in our house. And I thought, well, if you're going to eat this stuff, then I need to eat this stuff. And we can't afford to eat both because we're talking about, it's an expensive change. But in my mind, to kill the yeast belly, to kill the C. diff and the bacteria, it's a change that had to happen. Because here's what we were finding. And I'm going to share a lot of things with you today. This is our experience. This may not be the experience of every family, but this is our experience, okay? And this is what we did. And so I'm sharing this with you, and I ended up, after the Zoom meeting last night and what I shared with the group, I had a grandmother reach out to me, and her and I have been conversing all day about the different things that we did because her child's in a similar situation. And so some of the things that we were seeing, okay, was one, Jackson was eating all the time, and it was carbs. It was carbs. It was fruit pouches. He loved fruit pouches, and he wanted one all the time. His little body was just craving, craving, craving. Much the same way that we do. I crave sugar. I have a sugar beast. It's horrible. I still have yet to kill the thing. But it's getting better. It's getting smaller because I went on the plan too. And I can tell you, I lost a ton of inflammation and I've lost 12 pounds just going gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free. And did it without exercise. There's something to that. But I'm not an expert. So, and we're not you, and you're not us. And your child is not ours, and our child is not yours. We've all been made in God's image. So I look at what Jackson was doing as far as the foods go. Head banging multiple times a day. Multiple times, to the degree that we went and got an MRI because we were concerned of the head banging of at least 100 times. We couldn't control that because when he would have an outburst, he would run away from us, drop to the floor, boom, 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 before we could even get there. We talked about helmets. He would not let us put a helmet on his head. It was a major, major battle when we tried to do a helmet. And he would get mad, head bang the wall, head bang the floor, concrete, didn't matter. So when we took him for the MRI came back completely clear. Doctor even said, I'm not worried about the head banging at this age. If you're older, you worry about the head banging. But at this age, we're not worried about it. But we'll test it just to be sure, and they did. It came back completely clear. But they did come back and say, he has autism. And at the time, the neurologist tested him, said he has mild to moderate. Well, that has since been moved up because Jackson is developmentally delayed. He was developmentally delayed when we got him. He was about 16 to 18 months when we first got him. And of course, then you had COVID, and so nobody did anything. We weren't able to. So the head banging, the self-injury behavior, multiple self-injury behavior. Dum, dum, dum. All of this stuff. Banging himself, just screaming. If somebody made a noise while he was watching a show, he would just start headbanging himself and ramming his head on hard surfaces and everything. It's like he was in pain, and one little peep out of somebody outside of that show and he was going off the chart. And so we had that. We had loose stools, which I just thought, well, that's from all the protein drinks that he's drinking, because he was drinking dairy protein drinks. He loved those every morning. He was drinking water. He was having fruit pouches. I'm not an expert in poop, but it turns out that the loose stool was not because of all of that. It was because of the C. diff that he had. And we still don't know how he got C. diff. Jackson had eczema, all in the creases, both creases of his arms behind his knees. Sometimes on his belly he had eczema. He had been treated for eczema for months, long before he came to our house. They had no idea what the eczema was from, just that he had this allergy. So we had that. And he's a very, very picky eater. Nothing brightly colored. No fruits, no vegetables, nothing brightly colored. He will not put it to his lips. Absolutely hates it. And he still hates it. He's what we used to call him a picky eater, but now he's a problem eater. So when all of this came to light with the stool problem and him having yeast, of course, all of that changed. Well, now you got to figure out how to feed the kid, because you got to make all the meals. You got to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You got to figure out what the snacks are going to be. So one of the things that helped us was somebody brought us this book, Deceptively Delicious, and it has a lot of recipes, and basically, almost dropped it. Basically what it is because of the yeast belly, the majority of his diet had to be vegetables and meats. Chicken, turkey, fish. He wasn't allowed to have pork or beef. So those three things, and because we don't eat fish, I'm sorry, I just don't like fish. And I grew up 5 minutes from the beach. I'll catch them all day long, but I'm not eating that stuff. This book actually gives you recipes that you can take the vegetables and you can slide them into the recipes. So for instance, applesauce muffins, you can use butternut squash or carrot in there, and it gives you the recipes. So basically what I did with these recipes is, knowing Jackson's limitations, I substituted some of the things then made that. So there's several recipes in this book that's helpful. I'm told that you can get it on Amazon. Somebody bought this for us, so we're very grateful. Another thing that we learned in this process is veggie powder. So I'll just show you that veggie powder. This is about one of 5 different veggie powders that we got off of Amazon. You can use this in your recipes. You can hide this in the recipes for your child, and they don't know. I also put a little bit of it in Jackson's smoothie for breakfast. This one in particular says all non-GMO carrots, peas, sweet potato, kale, and spinach. Made in the USA. It's 15 calories, and the rest of the print is too small for these glasses. But easy peasy, green blend. They have them in different flavors with some other veggies in them, but I liked this combination the best, and I've actually had this in my food, and it's good. So that's good. There is the Himalayan pink salt. I've been told don't use a lot because it's very potent, so somebody gave us that, which we're very grateful. One of the things we had to do is as I mentioned, we went gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. So then we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to do smoothies? Because we were doing them out of milk, the dairy smoothies we were giving him. We found this, and they have it in vanilla too. Vega powder, protein powder, all plant-based, is what Jackson likes. And in this, see, he won't eat. If I was to put spinach and blueberries on his tray, he'd throw them on the floor. But I put him in with the powder. He has no idea. So he's been drinking spinach and blueberries, a handful of blueberries, now that he can have fruit, a handful of blueberries each day, and that's all the fruit that he gets, in his smoothies. And I do it with the vanilla powder. He likes the chocolate powder too, but we found that the chocolate powder actually kind of winds him up a little bit. So we had to back off the chocolate. So we went vanilla, and he loves it. We do pancake mix. Oh, I don't have, but it's the pancake mix is by Simple Mills. This is their cracker that he eats. But Simple Mills has a pancake mix, which is really good. And you need to check that out. And that's the pancake mix that we have been using for him. And in that, we use up crushed nuts. And that gives a little more protein. He eats that and a smoothie every morning. Now, one of the things that we do, because I love pasta, and it's an option for us to be able to give him, is we have found these pastas. This brand is the best tasting brand I have found yet. Now it's $4 a box, and you know, it probably was less than that a year ago. But right now it's like you try and get it on sale, $4 or $5 a box. It's the best tasting brand that I have found yet. And you can do all kinds of things with this pasta. It's gluten-free. The other one is cassava, which this one I just bought brand new. I haven't tried this yet. This is our first box. But this gluten-free penny pasta, delicious. I eat this plain. It's delicious. It's the best gluten-free pasta I have found. Next up, if you can't do eggs, there is the egg replacer. I'm not crazy about this egg replacer, honestly, because it gets kind of like rubbery. I'm all for like real eggs. Now, if you're using real eggs, we're using cage-free. We're using the pasture eggs. Our eggs aren't the white-shelled, all look exactly alike eggs. We're using straight out organic from the pasture, cage-free eggs. Jackson right now is on a limitation of eggs, 2 to 4 a week, which isn't a whole lot. He gets that in the pancake mix. But the pancakes, what I do with the pancakes, I make them in bulk. And then I have them 2 every morning because that's what he's eating. And I would say probably a box, because I make the whole box. I could probably get 4 or 5 days out of one box, doing them 2 at a time. And I make them smaller, and he has a smoothie, and it fills him up. Another thing that we have looked into and have tried one time, and we've got to figure out a sauce for this, is this red lentil galaxy pasta. I am told, because we just bought this, I'm told that by itself, it's okay. It needs a sauce, but that's an option. What do you give your kid for a snack? For months, it was these, because he couldn't have any fruit. Now we've changed over to where some of these brands have fruit in them. I think spinach and I forget what the fruit is, pear or something. He loves these. This is a good cracker. He's going to be 4 years old, but he still eats this. And normally, you would only buy this where you're baby and you needed your baby to be able to chew on something, right? Jackson doesn't care. He's like, this looks like a chip. I'm eating it. And it's been a good little substitute. Two of the things that we found: organic coconut cream. We make our own avocado pudding, and we use vanilla protein powder to do it. You can get the recipe. I think my daughter got it on Pinterest. She makes a fabulous avocado vanilla pudding with the protein powder using this, and he loves it. He loves it. That's his special snack. Things that we use is these black beans, which you can tell that they're already they look like refried beans. The consistency, and he likes these. He likes it, it's like hummus consistency, and he likes hummus with chips, and we've had to go organic. We go organic, it's a hard word to say. I didn't have to say organic for 40 plus years, but we go organic as much as possible. There's some things that I can't find organic, or it's off the shelf because other people are buying organic and it's not been filled in, so sometimes you don't have a choice, but we go organic as much as possible. We do that with the meat too. Organic ground turkey, organic ground chicken is what we use the most of, and usually when I can find it in the store on sale, I'm buying like 8 of them, the 1 pound packages, putting them in the freezer. Another thing that we do, don't mind the noise in the background, that's just my dog, because she's getting nervous from a storm I think is coming. She can sense these thunderstorms from miles away. We originally were grounding our vegetables up in this. Not very big, right? You go to Costco, or you go to the grocery store, wherever you shop, you buy this massive pile of vegetables because you want to do all this prep in advance. And the first time I did it, I used this, and it took me hours to grind up all the vegetables that I had bought. So, a dear sweet woman from church who I just absolutely love heard of my struggles, and she brought me over this. And here is the big difference, right? Big difference. Let me tell you. Saved me hours. So I food process all the vegetables that we need, and then I freeze them. I put them in sandwich baggies made for the freezer, and I freeze them. And I don't fill the baggie all the way up. I fill it only halfway, because the stuff that I want to make, I usually want to vary the vegetables in it. And so I don't want a whole bag of carrots. I just want half a bag. So I make lots of little bags of vegetables, and I have a container in my freezer. Then I'll just show you. So I have a container in my freezer that Jackson's stuff, that's what it goes in. Oh, and here is, if you're looking for chicken nuggets, this is the brand that we have found that Jackson likes the best, that's gluten-free. Now you got to be careful, because there's one that has like a blue label. I bought those by mistake. They're gluten. And let me tell you what happened. I didn't realize I was giving Jackson gluten nuggets. And because of that, he lost some of his skills for a few days. So now we know that gluten adversely affects him and his speech. So we don't do that anymore. So you have to be careful. Read all the labels. Not always is it going to say gluten-free right on the front. You got to read what's in it. Okay? Another thing that we do, I want to show you this. And you'll have to forgive, my dog was right, it has started to rain. One of the things that our ABA therapist did for us is she took the stool test results and the doctor's notes, and she made us cards. And she put them on a thing that we could take to the grocery store with us. And on these cards, I'll just show you, like this one, if you can see this, yeast and mold containing foods. And then when you flip it over, and she did this great, and she laminated them for us. And it says on here what they are. Fermented dairy products, yogurt, kefir, buttermilk, low-fat cottage cheese, sour cream. These are all things that are fermented foods. And she went on to make us one, foods to avoid, right? All cheeses, bread, other yeast-raised baked items, cake, cookies, crackers, whole grain cereal, canned veggies, pasta, tortillas, waffles, muffins, beef and pork, all mushrooms, rye and wheat. The pediatrician told us to stay away from wheat. Grapes, plums, dried and canned fruit, bananas, refined sugar. Eat nothing containing sucrose, corn sweetener, fructose, corn syrup, maple syrup, maltose, sorbitol, on and on and on, these foods to avoid. And we just lost power. Yikes. Okay. Well, thankfully, this is on a camera. All right, so, and then here's the other list. Okay, so fruits that you're allowed to have. And it has a list of fruit. Hey, it just came back on. Fruits that you're allowed to have. And veggies. And so she went through and she made these little cards for us to be able to take to the grocery store. Because, you know, when you get to the grocery store and you're shopping, you're like, this is a lot. You have to read all the labels. And then you have your to-do list of, okay, these are the things I'm allowed to have and the things that I'm not allowed to have. And one might think, well, the things that I'm not allowed to have, then what's left? What is left? What can the kid eat? That's your initial thought. You're like, you're giving me all of these things that he can't eat. What's left? What am I going to feed him? I've been in that spot. It's hard. It's hard. But the doctor looked right at me and she said, there's plenty. There's plenty he can eat. Well, my problem is he's a problem eater and he won't eat all the things that you are suggesting that he eats. So now what? You got to get creative. You got to get creative, and that's what we've had to do. We've had to get creative. I'll show you this one thing out of the refrigerator. So we got creative with the chicken and the turkey and the vegetables. And we made chicken nuggets. We made our own nuggets. They've got dairy-free cheese. They have ground chicken. These nuggets have colored peppers, and they have carrots in them. They have the veggie powder. Okay, they have 1 egg. And for a breading, because you like to be able to have the nuggets, you know, when you make meatloaf, you add breading and all the spices and seasonings and everything. I use a gluten-free matzo cracker, and I grind that up in my little grinder, and I use that for the breading. And then I add the seasonings that I know that he's allowed to eat, and as a result you have nuggets, and I make a bunch because he's eating these every day. We got to be able to get in the vegetables and the meats by lunchtime. That's like the preferred. That's what the doctor said. They really don't want the proteins in the dinner time. They want them in the morning and at lunch. All right, another thing, I'll just show you these things that have helped us, that we've kind of implemented, because, you know, honestly, you get down to like 5 foods and you're like, what's left? So we've implemented these chickpea flour tortillas that have helped us. They're good. I eat them myself. We have the burrito size, which are good. And we like this brand. It's actually worked out good for us. Now, we don't give Jackson these all the time. This is something that we do if we absolutely don't have anything left. We're like, okay, we'll give him one of these because it's not his favorite. He would rather not. The ingredients are water, cassava flour, tapioca flour, avocado oil, coconut flour, arrowroot flour, apple cider vinegar, coconut sugar, sea salt, yeast, and it says contains coconuts. The sugars are 2 carbs, 34, 7 fats, 2 proteins. We try not to do these all the time because, like I said, he's not a fan of them, and we have to watch the yeast content. So that's not something that we do all the time. Now, for dairy-free cheese, because when it comes time for cheese, well, that's dairy. So we've found that this has been the best one that we've used when we have to use cheese, and that is the Daiya shredded. And sometimes I'm like, oh, just the look is a little weird, but he likes it. So sometimes I'll add a little bit of cheese, just a little bit, to the nuggets to just make them not so dry. Daiya, this brand Daiya also makes a dairy-free macaroni and cheese, which he absolutely loves, and you can get it in cheddar and all the other cheese flavors that you want. Again, like $3 or $4 a box, but for us, it's worked out good as something to be able to give him at dinner time when they get tired of eating the nuggets. So. All right, let's talk about this for a moment. So when Jackson got the yeast belly, we had to go on all kinds of supplements to be able to help him. And these supplements, they are ones that you pick up on Amazon. We actually got them at our doctor's office. We got them through the integrative pediatrician, is the one who did our belly testing. And we were able to get almost all of these supplements through their office The other place that we picked up the balance of them was Whole Foods, and we got them off of Amazon. There is another supplement that's not here that Jackson was taking, and that was one that he took for 90 days, and it was L-glutamine. He had to be on that for 90 days, and then he's transferred off. We've been 6 months in this process. We started at the end of February, and we're now 6 months in. We just did a second stool testing last weekend to see where we're at in regards to his belly. Is the yeast all gone? I don't fully expect it to be all gone, but a good majority of it, because he's not walking around with the huge belly every night. That was another sign that we just, oh, he's full. Well, that wasn't exactly it. So you've got the MCT oil for brain health. He gets that every morning in his smoothie. You've got the omega-3 oil. He gets that in his smoothie. Now that we are past the 90 days, his probiotic changed to Garden Life for kids. He gets that in his smoothie. And he gets vitamin D in his smoothie. Then in his water, he gets the Infamil multivitamin, and he gets grapefruit extract, okay, and he gets a few drops of stevia to offset the taste of this. That he gets in his water. He does the normal kids' cups of water. His comes with a straw. We put that in, and he drinks that, and that's every day. Those are for however long until the pediatrician tells us, okay, you can back off of those things. 3 of these things have to be refrigerated. These 3 have to be refrigerated. The rest of it can go on the shelf. All right, and then the last thing I want to mention to you is just a couple of things that we have implemented that have helped us in this process, not only with the food, but with therapy, because we have a severe autism diagnosis and we need help. We need help. And there's many things that people are waiting on that, one, they're waiting on a diagnosis, or they're waiting on a doctor's appointment to be able to take the next step, or they're waiting on therapists. I'm in Facebook groups and I see the long waits of many people. I see insurance challenges. That's one of the things with our integrative pediatrician. They don't take our insurance. So everything is cash out of pocket, and you're like, oh, it's expensive. Yes, it is. It's expensive. But when I think about it, here's this child who is struggling to talk. He's not talking hardly at all. He's developmentally delayed by at least a year, and he's here in my home for a reason. And it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. And I'm going to do what I can. And I know there's many, many parents and grandparents and caretakers out there who are doing the same thing. They're sacrificing, and they're looking for information. So one of the things that our ABA therapist recommended to us was to get this book here. This is what they're using. They're using this book, and it actually comes with a workbook. So this gives you examples of the various methods. Well, there's a list right there of the things that you will see happen. But this will give you an example. So it gives you the situation, and then it kind of walks you through very easily with pictures. So the book doesn't take long at all to read, because most of the pages have very little writing on them, which is awesome, right? And it gives you pictures as examples. Now, let me say this about ABA. Because when I first walked into this autism journey, ABA was like, ah! You know, when you mention the word, people are just like, the ABA therapists that we have are absolutely wonderful. And ABA has helped us immensely. This is not the ABA of 20, 25 years ago that our therapists are doing. That's not the ABA that's happening today. And if that's the ABA that you've experienced, there's a problem, because that's not the ABA that's out there. And that's what we found. Our ABA therapists have been wonderful. They've become like family. They are on our team. And there's a team of 5 of us. And when we get together, it's like we strategize and we talk about, okay, what's working, what's not working, how do we do this? We did this week, this happened. Did we do it right? How do we handle this situation? We have this going on, we have that going on. They're our teammates, they're helping us. If that's not the experience that you're having with ABA, that's a problem. I could have put him in a full-time ABA facility, but I wouldn't have got that one-on-one like I'm getting now. It's a sacrifice, it's a challenge, but we're doing it. We're doing it, and we're seeing great results from it. We're seeing great results from it. So I would encourage you to get this book because it gives you pictures and examples of how to help. I know there's teachers out there, they're facing all kinds of problems in that they don't know how to deal with the child, with the children that have autism, because they haven't been trained. They haven't been trained. They've been teaching 20, 30 years, and they haven't been trained on how to handle it. So me personally, ABA has been wonderful. And it was highly recommended by our friends who also did it, whose son also had yeast belly. And today that child, he's 10 years old, well, he's 11 now, and he's a genius. And he's doing great, and he's homeschooling. The kid can make his own bacon and eggs by himself, at home by himself. So it's been great for him, and it's been great for us to help with Jackson. One of the things in the Turn Autism Around by Mary Barbera is she has an assessment sheet, this one-page assessment. Now, it's been newly done as of the other day. This will tell you where things are really quickly. And you take the assessment. I took her course, toddler, it was the toddler course. MaryBarbera.com, you can go on, take the toddler course. It was well worth the money to me. It was well worth the money that I spent to learn these things, to get all the resources printed out to where I have them for myself and can go back and look at them. She has a ton of stuff on there. And then I ended up going ahead and doing the verbal behavioral bundle, and that's more in depth on stuff. So MaryBarbera.com, she's been dealing with it for 20 years. Her own son has had autism, has autism. I think he's 26 now, 23. But she tells the story about how she ignored it the first year. She was in denial the first year. So she too, like us, lost a year of therapy. And then here's another thing that I do. I went ahead and I got a calendar book, and I document everything. I keep all the data, what Jackson did. Like, we had the matching game, shoebox in the morning, we went to church, and in the afternoon we did puzzle time, counting cows at dinner. We went to Whole Foods with our therapist to get the things that we needed, to look at new recipes to try and make the food more variety because it's so tight. He ate broccoli and nuggets and mac and cheese for dinner, which eating broccoli is huge. That's huge. That kind of stuff. On bad days, I would count. Jackson was up in the middle of the night. He was playing around in his bed for an hour. It used to be when, so I use that for all of that stuff. It used to be while I'm thinking about the nighttime, Jackson used to laugh uncontrollably in the middle of the night. He doesn't do that anymore. Not since we've changed the foods. So there's something tied to the yeast belly and all of that was happening with his gut that was causing this inappropriate laughter that would be happening. And we would go in there like, is he seeing something in here? What's going on? It wasn't that. It was that there was something going on internally that was causing that, and we no longer see that anymore. So we've had big changes since we've changed the food. And I think one of the things that has come out of this for me, being in all of these groups, is that that's not something that's commonly talked about. The food is not commonly talked about. And it should be. Because when we change the food and we're healing up the gut, we have seen this child is now talking. He's now echoing. He's now saying his numbers. He says his numbers. We said, what number is that? And he tells us. He can look at, we have these number cows, and they have the numbers on the side, and we place them all out of order. He can tell us what the numbers are. He can tell us his colors. He knows his little cars. There's so many things that have happened with him in the last probably 3 months, because the change didn't happen overnight. We didn't just change gluten-free and he woke up and went, oh, I can talk now. It took a couple of months. It took a lot of hard work. You've got to be determined. You've got to stay, not focused, committed. You got to be committed. You can't give an inch, because that inch will turn into a mile. You can't say, well, today I'll give you some gluten. No, you can't give him any gluten. As I found out when I gave Jackson gluten inadvertently through those nuggets, he lost skills. He started, what are you doing, honey? He not said that. Now that it's been like 2 weeks, that's clearing up. So, and we can tell. So now we know that he can't have gluten. One of the things that we found out for his eczema is we narrowed it down to 2 things. One, either peanut butter or oats. And so we've not given him either one, and the eczema has disappeared. The human body is amazing. God made an amazing thing. It's so intelligent. So I wanted to share all of those things with you, because after going back and forth in a text message with the grandmother from last night, I thought, you know what? There are more people out there that need the information, that they have no idea. They haven't started yet. They just started on this journey. I spent months and months gathering all the information to try and get it into one place, because I know how long it took me to just get tidbits from here and there, and well, what did you do, and did that work, and how about here, and how about there? And so now I'm just taking everything and putting it in one place. Here you go. Hopefully it helps you. One of the things I did is on my website that I already had in place, teachinglady.net, theteachinglady.net. You can also find it by BibleTeachingLady.com. Is you go on there is an autism tab, and everything that we have learned is under that autism tab, and we have a lot more to learn. This isn't it, but this is a good start as far as the kinds of doctors that diagnose this stuff, the foods, the supplements, the information about the stool testing, the terms. What do the terms mean? I remember when I went on Facebook and I got into a Facebook group with all these autism moms, and there's thousands of autism moms. And they were throwing around these terms, ND, NT, ABA, ASD, and I'm like, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? They're throwing around like I know, like everybody knows what they're talking about. And I finally wrote and said, what are you all talking about? I don't understand. I'm new to this autism world. What is ND? What is NT? What is MFHR or something like that? What is that stuff? And they went, we just assume everybody knows what that means. So those kind of things are on my website too, to give you the definitions of what those are, because it's really hard when you find out that your child has autism. You're like, where do I start? I don't even know what to do. And usually the most glaring thing in front of you is, well, my child can't talk and he's got behavior issues. So what do? I need to do something, and I need to do it quickly. And I get that. We were there. I felt like I'm racing against the clock. Early prevention is key. The earlier you can start. I've read Facebook posts of autism moms who have a diagnosis that have no therapy in place yet. They've been waiting for months and months and months and months. There are things that you can do, i.e. the book right? The book. If I turn it the right way. Take Mary Barbera's class. Do the shoebox program. This is how we started the shoebox program. Make a slit in the top of the shoebox. Take some pictures of familiar things around your house, of people. Make sure it's one item, one person per picture. And you do the shoebox and you take the picture and you show it to them and you go, net. Jackson knows me by net. 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 They grab it, put it in the shoebox. And maybe they don't right away, or you help them put in the shoebox. And then you have another picture they put in the shoebox, and you have other pictures of things that are familiar to them. Potty, potty, potty. And we teach them, and then they put it in the shoebox. I used cardboard paper, construction paper, blue, blue, blue. Today, Jackson can say all the things in the shoebox, and there's probably 30 of them. We also do matching. So we have these cards, and I got 2 sets, and so we do matching now. He can match all the cards, and he knows some of the pictures. He knows what they are. He couldn't do that in February of 2022. And we're in September of 2022. He couldn't do any of that in February. He couldn't say the words. He couldn't do matching. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So I just want to share that with you. I hope that helps, gives you some ideas of some of the things that we have implemented when we found out that Jackson had yeast belly. It has really made a difference in his life and ours, him being able to communicate. And while the words are not pristine and they're not exact, I mean, he calls the number 7. When he gets to 7, it goes 7, 7. Hey, I know he's saying 7, and eventually it'll get there. Eventually it will get there. The other day he said, what? And I'm like, he said what? This morning he knocked on the babysitter's door, the daycare lady where he goes. He knocked, trick or treat. He just said that out of the blue. I'm like, where did you hear trick or treat from? I don't even know. He must have heard it. He heard it from the little girl in the daycare. So it's not easy. I commend you for watching this video all the way through and learning. And I hope that somewhere and something that I've showed you helps you to be able to help your child. And I know how hard it is. I'm walking the road. I know it. I know how hard it is. It's not easy. It occupies all of your free time, especially if you're dealing with a child who is dealing with some behavior things that are heartbreaking. It's hard to watch. But be patient with yourself and stay the course. We learned a lot about the behavior. We learned the different types of behaviors, the functions. That's why I think it's very important that you yourself get educated. That you yourself get educated, because what we found is because we didn't know, we were using the wrong strategies. I've already parented a child. She's 25 years old. Everything I use for her does not work on him. I had to rethink everything. I feel like I've never parented before. I had to rethink it all. And what I found is all the strategies I used on her, they don't work on him. I have to think like him. How does he think? I have to learn his brain. I have to learn how he thinks. And so being able to do that, and that's where the ABA came in and was teaching us, and things have been so much better. Because we see head banging and we rush over and go, don't head bang. That's not the way to handle it. Because that's just reinforcing the behavior to where he does it again because he got our attention. I mean, that's a whole nother video. I could go on about that stuff. But we have learned a lot. So thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful. I wasn't intending for it to go almost an hour. But when you're trying to cram in all these things, and I suppose I could break it down into mini videos, and do, but yeah, I guess I could. I don't know. We'll see. I don't get much time. I don't get much free time right now. I'm on my lunch break recording this, so I got 10 minutes left. I better go. So I'll talk to you soon. I pray that the Lord will guide you accordingly, help you and your family, and that He'll provide, and that you'll get the help that you need. You'll get the rest that you need. And just by you sticking around for an hour to watch this, you want to help your child. You're looking, you're seeking things out, and that's good. That's good. That's what I did. I just kept looking. I kept hunting it down. There's got to be some help out there. I got to find it because time is ticking away. So you take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.